history, where now our brand new series Pub Dig concludes with a route around Oliver Cromwell's Civil War HQ.
On Pub Dig, we're going to root around under the country's greatest alehouses to reveal the big stories from British history.
Salute.
Because pubs are not only our oldest buildings, they've always been the place for carousing and violence, revolutionary plots and dirty deeds, all the juicy bits of British history.
Groundbreaking stuff here.
Now, when it comes to boozers, I'm just, well, a boozer. So we brought in a team of experts led by my favourite archaeologist, Paul Blinkhorn.
I know nothing about archaeology or history, but there is one question I've always wanted to ask you.
OK.
Can you get us a pint?
Funnily enough, there's been one question I've always wanted to ask you.
Go on.
Have you got a tenner?
Here we go.
On this show, we're digging in Banbury, North Oxfordshire. In the 1640s, Civil War split the country in two, and Banbury was the scene of the worst urban warfare of the conflict. We're hoping to find the battlefield, the Roundhead HQ, and the lost Puritan town beneath the beer cellar, in two different pubs, all the while downing pints of a medieval aphrodisiac.
I love you.
And revealing the X-rated world under Banbury's Puritan exterior. So sit back, pour yourself a pint, and join us on Pub Dig. This week on Pub Dig, we're in Banbury, North Oxfordshire. In 1642, the deadliest war fought on British soil began, bringing death and destruction to its streets.
This sleepy market town went on to be the scene of some of the bloodiest fighting in a conflict that was to tear our country apart. The Civil War, when the parliamentarians under Oliver Cromwell fought tooth and nail with King Charles I's royalists over how the country should be run.
Banbury was on the parliamentarian side. The royalists took the castle in the centre of town, and Banbury was flattened during the conflict.
After a decade of fighting, King Charles was executed, and for the first time ever, a commoner, Oliver Cromwell, was in charge of the country. These events were to shape the Britain we know today. But hang on, what's it got to do with pubs?
The old Reindeer Inn is the only building to have survived the conflict to the present day. And incredibly, local legend claims that Oliver Cromwell actually helped plan the battle from this very pub.
We're here at the old Reindeer Inn to dig deep, find out what remains of the town underground.
But here, we don't have a huge beer garden to play with, just a narrow strip of car park.
Time to start playing.
We're digging up a divided Britain, where parliamentarian Roundheads, famed for their fanatical ultra-Protestant Puritanism, took on the King's men, posh Cavalier types suspected of dodgy Catholic sympathies. Helping us is Banbury archaeologist Rob Kinchin-Smith.
I'm very passionate about the town and about its history.
This is quite exciting for me and Paul, because I'm actually a Catholic Cavalier, and as you can see, Paul is the archetype Roundhead, isn't he?
But on this show, we're not taking sides. The Reindeer is parliamentarian turf. But to give the Royalists their 15 minutes of fame, we're going to break the rules and dig in a second pub down by the castle as well. The Reindeer lies outside the war zone. But the Unicorn pub is smack in the middle of it, built after the war on the remains. Here we're hoping to find Cromwell's killing fields.
The castle would have been here on the left-hand side.
Right.
And these walls roughly follow the line of the walls of the castle.
So underneath the castle shopping centre, in fact?
Yeah.
OK.
Ah, good spot.
The Unicorn Inn, again, just post-Civil War. So all this area was completely rebuilt just after the Civil War.
But digging two pubs is going to push us to the limit. And back at the Reindeer, we've already got our first problem. The boys have detected underground electric and gas mains.
That sounds very ominous.
There's only a narrow strip that can be dug.
Good to see you getting involved, Paul.
As we tear up the tarmac,
Oh, lovely, look at that.
Nice.
It occurs to me perhaps we should check if the landlord has any objections. Luckily, the ludicrously young Mark Sylvester has a soft spot for fine old pubs.
Mark, first of all, thank you very much for having us.
No problem at all.
Cheers, Mark.
This is Paul, my fiancée. How long have you been at the Reindeer?
I've only been here a few weeks.
Oh, right, so the pub predates you.
Oh, yes, only just by a few hundred years, I believe. It's one of the oldest buildings in Banbury. It's got a lot of history. It's got the old globe room out the back, which I hear a lot about.
There's all this Civil War history with Banbury and, you know, the association of Cromwell with the pub,
Which is
you know.
the globe room is what the globe room is.
Yeah,
Exactly,
apparently,
yeah.
Mark, thanks again.
No problem at all.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Aha, Oliver Cromwell was in this very pub. Now there's a man who divides opinion. He was an unbeatable military genius who won the right for the people of England to govern their own country. But he was also a bloodthirsty Puritan psychopath who thought he was on a mission from God. Love him or hate him, his achievements certainly shaped the modern world. What is so exciting is that the locals believe Cromwell used the Globe Room as an HQ during the Civil War. Does pub dig buildings expert Richard K. Morris think there's any truth to this rumour?
This must have been one of the poshest rooms in Banbury at that time.
Can we say with any certainty that Cromwell used this room for any reason?
Let's put it this way. If Cromwell was going to meet up in the poshest room in the town,
And we'll presume he would go for the poshest.
poshest room in the town, this is likely to be it.
Yeah.
Is that good enough?
That's quite hedgy, but that's all right. That's quite Fence City, but I'm used to that from you archaeologists. And rather sweetly over the mantelpiece with a picture of King Charles I and Oliver Cromwell.
Hedging their bets.
It could be, yes.
So it could be Cromwell's HQ. But to find out exactly what was going on here, we're going to have to start digging. While the team gets stuck in, we're off to the Unicorn and we're taking the direct approach.
So we're a bit closer to the castle.
We're very close to the castle.
Yeah, so the castle is there where the Vienna patisserie is.
Yep.
So the Unicorn would have been right in the battlefield, virtually.
Well, it probably wouldn't have been here. It would have just been this huge levelled area full of defence works, guns, ditches, and you name it, you know.
We only just managed to squeeze our digger through the gap. And as Paul gets a closer look at where we're going to dig, alarm bells start ringing. The yard is packed with manhole covers. This could get complicated.
Stick a little 3x1 in here and see what we can get. But it's a one-shot job, this, basically.
Paul has a point. This yard looks like it's been seriously messed with over the years. But to have any hope of hitting the battlefield, this is the only place we can dig. And as Paul predicted, it's not long before we hit some very dodgy-looking pipes.
Well, we've hit what looks suspiciously like a water or gas pipe there, so we're going to have to abandon this half metre at the end of the trench already.
Is that still functioning?
We don't know, but you can't really
take
take
a
that.
risk.
What I was going to do actually was light a cigarette. We're going to end up with a 1.5 by 1, so we're virtually going to end up with a test pit. But you have to be zen about these things, grass up there.
But it seems all is not lost.
That could be some sort of bank.
The team peel off the surface and make a fascinating discovery. A layer of, bluey grey clay. But believe it or not, this could be exactly what we're after.
This is good stuff, this clay, isn't it? What's this called?
This is lias.
So is this natural, do you think, here?
Well, it is the natural, but this isn't natural. There's lots of bits of charcoal in it. And I'm just wondering if someone's dug a whacking great ditch, dug out all this blue-grey clay, and then thrown it up as an embankment.
Right.
As part of a Civil War siege defence. This yellowy-brown clay looks like infill and landscaping.
Why are you even talking, Paul? I've made a little model of you.
Oh, well done. I've made you a pot.
Good date?
Early 21st century.
Pub dig is off to a flying start. We've broken ground and we might have found the earthworks for the siege of the castle. Banbury is beginning to reveal its secrets.
Coming up, we reveal the true scale of the suffering endured by this Puritan paradise in the revolution that killed the king.
This was right on the very edge of that wasteland.
And find out if Cromwell could have evaded the royalist snipers at the Reindeer Inn.
Wouldn't it be nice if we found Oliver Cromwell's wart?
We're in Banbury, North Oxfordshire, on the hunt for signs of the Civil War of the 1640s. The conflict that killed a king and put a filthy commoner in charge of Britain. At the Reindeer Inn, which survived the war, we're hunting for remains from the time Cromwell used this as his HQ. And down at the Unicorn, in the middle of the old battlefield, we're looking for evidence of the war itself. Site Supervisor Giles is getting stuck into the blue-grey clay. But instead of finding part of the war zone, we have stumbled across a major obstacle.
I don't know.
It's horribly modern looking.
So we've come down on top of the roof of a cellar, you
It
reckon?
looks like the roof of a brick barrel vaulted cellar.
OK. So which belongs to one of these buildings?
Could well belong to one of these buildings.
Why don't we go around and knock on a few doors
Why
and
not?
ask if they've got a cellar?
Excuse me, you don't have to have a brick barrel vaulted cellar, do you?
With a slight hole in the corner.
Yeah, why not? That's great.
Meet the people of Banbury, piss them off.
Our job.
It's the nationwide. This is going to be fun.
We're actually about to tunnel into the
bank vault.
Oh dear, we might be breaking into a bank vault. Someone had better tell Chief Builder Allen before he strikes gold. The Nationwide weren't keen on us filming their vaults in case robbers are watching, but they did give us a sneaky look. And it's clearly not theirs. But if it's not a bank vault, what is it?
Thank you.
My pleasure.
At least we're not tunneling into a bank vault. That's
I know,
something.
it's a shame in a sense, isn't it? But on a bright note, I did get an overdraft extension.
Did you?
Yes, so it's well worth a visit.
As we don't want to destabilise the mystery structure, we can only drill a tiny hole. But we still need to find out how deep it is and whether it's filled with liquids that might be hazardous.
It could be a massive great cesspit, of course, in which case we're going to have some gallons of well-fermented excrement down there, which could get entertaining.
That's what we give our viewers. Here we go. And it suddenly gave away. You just suddenly felt.
Yep.
Paul does a quick smell test to check that it doesn't contain ancient poo.
Yeah, it doesn't smell of anything. So what do we do next?
Well, I suppose find out just how far down the void goes.
Are you going to go down the hole, Paul?
I am.
Good
by the
man.
by using my terrifying powers.
As we can't get a camera down there to find out more, Paul uses a classic piece of kit, the humble plumb line.
It'd be great if we pulled up a fish.
So hit bottom. Yep, there's bottom. So.
Ooh. Blimey. That's deep.
Yeah, it is deep. That's taller than me, so that's getting on for 8 foot, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And it's
Not particularly wet.
dry.
Paul thinks we found a 19th century tunnel that's removed all the Civil War remains. Pesky Victorians and their public utilities.
It was some sort of rainwater management thing for just, directing water away from all these buildings.
Is this a pub dig disaster, Paul?
It's a disaster if you consider finding nothing to be a disaster, but I mean, it's archaeology. Sometimes you don't find anything. It's just the nature of the beast. I'm not bothered.
So you're not sad?
Not at all.
I love you.
With nowhere else to dig and no artefacts older than my nan in the trench, we have to shut down the Unicorn. Just one day in and the Unicorn has gone down the pan. Our ambitions to reveal Banbury's past are now pinned on the Reindeer. But here, at least, things are looking up.
Look at this.
We have archaeology.
Do we?
smell
Now, this one I say, well, we have a hole in the ground that's full of soil, and you get really excited and say, oh, look, it's a thing.
That's great.
What is it?
You can see this line of orange stones.
Yes.
That looks suspicious like a wall to me.
As soon as the soil comes off the top of the trench, the team hit a lovely old wall.
And if you cast your eyes along it and carry on, it lines up perfectly with this wall.
Oh, I see.
The end of this wall. If you look at the end of that wall, you can see stone sticking out of it. There's been another wall keyed into that.
Right,
So
and that's
this
that wall.
Is that wall.
So if we move this way, we are on the inside of a building.